Hey everybody, welcome back to Twin Peaks Season 1, Episode 2 review. I hope you enjoyed the pilot episode, and hopefully my review of it. Like I said, please leave any comments in the comment section, any suggestions, and I will take a look and see if anybody's got some good critique and work on improving future episode reviews. But let us not spend too much time with the preamble. Let's get right to it. All right. So we start off with a little bit of Dale Cooper's quirks and kind of goofy behavior. You just get a kind of a better feel of the character. And the fact that he loves him some coffee. Black coffee specifically. And I believe David Lynch is also a really big coffee drinker. I think he even has his own, or at one time had his own coffee brand that was commercially sold, or maybe sold via his website or something. So, yep. Big time coffee drinkers in Twin Peaks. And so after he sits down to breakfast at the Great Northern, here comes Audrey Horne. Obviously hot to trot for Dale Cooper. Doing all our best to leave some not so subtle hints. I don't know what it is about itchy palms. That was kind of an odd comment, but he manages to get very little information out of her other than she knew Laura Palmer, but they weren't exactly friends. So not much going on with Audrey Horne currently. She's not helping out too much, and let us move on. All right, jumping over to the Twin Peaks Sheriff's Department. Everybody's chowing on donuts, drinking coffee. There's plenty of that. I don't know if it's to reinforce the cops eating donuts stereotype or not, but they like donuts and coffee over there. And so now we've finally got I believe the autopsy, or at least some preliminary work has been done by one of the local pathologists, I assume you would call coroners, and Doc Hayward did not want to do it himself, apparently. So what we know so far about Laura and what happened to her is at least from this report, is the following. So she died sometime between about 12:30 and 4 a.m. The cause of death was loss of... Apparently she took quite a beating, I would assume, from his description. That was probably culminated in the loss of blood and subsequent death. Also interesting that we've got some bite marks on her shoulders and her tongue, which you will, in future episodes, realize, or not realize, but will be shown what exactly was the cause of that. But at the moment, it kind of, what I was initially thinking is it's probably has something to do with some kinky sex. Apparently, she was also tied up, wrist, ankles, and upper arms. We don't know if this was when she was alive or post-mortem. And finally, she was sexually active with at least 3 different men within a 12-hour window before her death. So yeah, put on your detective caps and analyze in your spare time, or rewatch the episode, and maybe you can start coming up with some of your own theories of what's going on and what might have happened. That's basically the hard evidence we have right now to go on. So let's move on to the next part. So now Shelley Johnson is about to head off to work, and her lovely, caring husband, Leo, demands that his laundry be done, and lo and behold, what does Shelley find? She finds a shirt with a hell of a lot of blood on it. So we've got some potential evidence now. So she's tucked that away for the moment, and we'll have to see what that leads to. So now we've got James Hurley being interviewed by the sheriff and Dale, and apparently he was seeing Laura in secret because she didn't want that relationship revealed for whatever reasons. You will get a little more information about that, but you'll have to wait till you watch the prequel movie to get the full scoop on that. But basically, James was kind of a positive influence and kind of a much-needed break away from all of the chaos and whatnot that was going on in her life. That's kind of the the perspective we get. He was kind of the bright spot, which got her to kick her cocaine habit, which only lasted for a short while. And possibly she was keeping things secret because of fear that Bobby might retaliate in some manner. So maybe that gives us a clue of possible events that might have taken place between them. But the thing is, what we know that kind of puts a kibosh on that is that Dale Cooper, or I'll just start calling him Dale. Dale reveals in the, or at least in the previous episode, that the biker is, or a biker is someone that Laura was seeing. So, and he doesn't seem to have been aware of that previous. So that kind of puts a hole in the idea that anything would have happened previous to when she was still alive. So apparently something scared the bejesus out of Laura a couple days before her death. If you remember when Donna and James were talking when they were going to bury the half of the heart necklace, that when she got off the bike and before she ran off into the woods, she hugged James and screamed that she loved him. And according to James, it seemed like, it was almost like a moment of clarity for her. It was like the old Laura that he remembered, instead of the person that had kind of been for the past couple days and whatnot, had been kind of and probably even before that had been kind of almost like a stranger. Maybe it's almost like she'd been had two personalities, or at least I don't know, jumped in kind of between, depending on mood or whatnot. And so we see the kind of lovey-dovey scene with James and Laura, where he's remembering her as she was, as kind of the sweet, innocent young girl, and probably still trying to reconcile that and what happened to her, and how she was acting when she wasn't that way. So he's torn, that's for sure. Not to mention he's also got a crush on Donna, so it's a bit of an emotional turmoil within old James there. And so apparently, once we jump away from that to Bobby and Mike, they owe Leo some shkadol, or money, for apparently something to do with the drugs, and so they're up shit creek at the moment. Then we switch over to Donna Hayward and her mother, and she basically spills the beans that James and her are an item, or going to be an item, and that she, even though she's kind of cheating, or falling in love with someone that had dated her best friend previously, she doesn't really feel any guilt. So you got this, you got the kind of typical teenager kind of romance going on. And then we also have Ed Hurley, who mentions a couple things, or at least one thing, two things. He was on stakeout, which he's not a law enforcement officer, obviously, so that's a curious comment to make. And he also mentions a Jacques Renault and a drink that was possibly drugged. So who is this Jacques Renault character, and why would he be drugging Ed's drink? Then after that, we get a crazy Nadine Hurley, who's trying to come up with the invention of a drape runner that's completely silent. So yeah, she's a bit out there. So after that, Mike and Bobby are released, and then we have Dale and Sheriff Truman visiting Josie Packard. to do some questioning, and we find out that Laura was actually teaching her English on a regular basis, and she mentions something about after Josie kind of gets the impression that she was troubled about something, and then Laura mentioned something about understanding how she felt about her husband's death, that being Josie Packard's husband who died. And it's kind of a weird statement to make, and I don't know what much to draw from it, so maybe you guys can figure out some parallels or come up with something. And after fish-flavored coffee for Dale and the sheriff, we jump over to Catherine Martell and Benjamin Horn, who are up to a little bit of hanky-panky. And apparently they've got a bit of a scheme going on, something to do with the mill. Apparently some books have been doctored so that there's the possible risk of bankruptcy, but it may take a while. So old Ben decides maybe it's time to start a little fire. And she thinks he's talking about sex, but he may be talking about something in the literal sense. All right, so we come to a pretty important scene over at the Palmers. Donna comes to visit Laura's mom. She is pretty distraught still, and thinks she sees Laura's face in Donna's, and is kind of losing it. And then she has a vision of some guy kind of tucked down behind the base of a bed. Who is this guy? Why did she see him in a vision at that moment? It's a good question to ask. Then at the hospital, we see a one-armed gentleman get out of the elevator. Deputy Hawks sees him and follows him down to what looks like to be the entrance towards the morgue, but loses him. So another character that we saw in the first episode briefly now has appeared a second time. Then we get to see a spoiled Audrey Horne acting like a brat. Apparently, she and her father are not on good terms, and she does certainly have an interesting taste in music, that's for sure. Then we go back at the Briggs' home. Bobby's kind of cocky, kind of teenager, and his dad's trying to talk to him. Major Briggs is a pretty cool character, but it takes a while for you to kind of see that side of him. But wasn't it lovely when Bobby get bitch slapped and a cigarette flies into the meatloaf? That was a pretty classic scene. It was definitely worth seeing him get bitch slapped like that. And now we're at the Double R. Norma Jennings and Dale mentions that Laura was activity was Meals on Wheels, so that's another thing that we'll see a little bit or find out a little bit more about later, possibly. We get to meet the log lady, a very enigmatic, kind of goofy Twin Peaks-ish character, who has maybe some information that she knows about to reveal. But Cooper doesn't know how to play the game just yet, and doesn't know about asking a log she carries around some questions, so he blows that chance. Then we get to see Leo being the typical jerk he is, because he can't find that shirt. Some domestic violence scene, which when the first time I saw, it is a bit disturbing, but with that music in the background, I found myself laughing for some reason. It's just because it's this complete absurdity of the music paired with him swinging a sock, soap and a sock around his head like David and Goliath with a sling or something. So not something really to find a laugh at, but the music just made it so absurd. So after that, we have Donna and James. James meets the family or parents. Nothing too much going on there. And then we get to another important part to wrap up the episode, and that's at Dr. Jacoby's practice, where obviously he is a very big fan of Hawaii and the tropical motif, and apparently he's getting little tape recordings from Laura's being sent. She apparently didn't think all that much of James. She thought he was just kind of a sweet guy, but it was pretty dumb. And then we also see that when Sarah Palmer had that vision at the end of the first episode, where the person was reaching in to grab the other half of the necklace, it was Dr. Jacoby, who has it now as a keepsake. And So there's some more evidence and information in his possession now, as far as Laura's actual recordings, and talking about meeting or getting lost in the quote woods, and about a mystery man. So, and we do remember that she left James that on Sparkwood, and Sparkwood and 12th. I can't remember the exact street name, or 10th or something like that, and then took off into the woods. So, what does this all mean? Let your brains wrap around that, and see if you can come up with any answers and maybe some theories on what maybe is going on for those of you who are new to the series. And as always, comment in the comment section. Offer some critique, some positive criticism, I should say, so that I can improve upon these episodes. Ask any questions. Please subscribe to support the channel. I appreciate each and every one that has subscribed so far. And I'll see you in the review episode number 3 video.